Hey y'all, it's me, Pay, and I'm so grateful to be back here for another episode of Healing Her Halo. I just want to thank you so much for your love, your support, your prayers, and I'm so grateful because I feel them. I feel your love. I feel your support. I feel your good, positive energy and vibes that you're sending my way, and I'm so appreciative of it. And let's keep it going, the momentum going, because as you guys know, last week was a really tough week for me. Emotionally, it was very taxing. So I'm just so grateful that you guys are here with me and that you're rooting for me, you're cheering me on, and you're showing the love, not just in the downloads by downloading the episodes, but you're sharing the episodes, and you're also letting me know what you think about it in the reviews, in the comments. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Now, today, I just want to talk to you kind of candidly about the courage to say no. When you're healing, you can't say yes to everything. And that's true even if you're not necessarily on an intentional healing journey, but that's true in any case. But particularly, if I said that right, when you're healing and you're being intentional about your healing, you have to have the courage to say no to things that aren't going to move the needle forward for you. And as challenging as that may be, as difficult as that may feel, it is very necessary. And the courage to say no becomes more and more important the more seasoned you get, because you don't really necessarily have the time to spend much time on things that aren't in full alignment with your journey. And I emphasis on your journey because we all have our own individual unique journey. We all have an individual inheritance that we need to get on the business of accessing. And sometimes there are beautiful distractions that come along the way, whether inside yourself or outside yourself, that seem like really good things to do. But every good thing is not a God thing. And that's why it's so important to, number one, pray and ask, seek guidance, and be grateful for the guidance that you get. And I always ask for wisdom, but also the courage to act upon that wisdom. Right? So it's not enough to just know what it is that you need to do and not do. You got to have the courage to make the choices, the tough choices, especially when you know that it's not in alignment with what God has for you. So with that being said, I created a few notes that I want to share with you. And this is not to be like glim or, not glim, but this is not to be somber about everything, but definitely want to give you the tools for this season of transition, because those of you who are listening, if you're kind of like me, you're in a space where, because you're healing, all of these beautiful things are rising to the surface. Maybe some, revived dreams from before and some ideas, and you're remembering yourself and you're remembering who you are and you're remembering what you love to do. And sometimes there's an influx of creative ideas and an influx of people gravitating towards you with ideas. And there's so many things, that those inspired ideas that seem so perfectly aligned for each moment. And then when you get into it, you realize that, maybe I jumped the gun a little bit with this. Maybe I should have waited. Maybe I should have consulted with God a little bit more about this. Maybe I should have asked for a little bit more guidance before jumping into it. Maybe this is a good thing. That's for later and not for right now, right? So today I want to introduce to you my F.R.E.E.D framework. The courage to say no to the wrong things frees you to say yes for the right things, okay? So the first part of the F.R.E.E.D framework is F. F stands for feel the shift, okay? Feel the shift, because things are shifting all the time and we have to be aware of that. Recognize when something no longer aligns with your spirit. That uncomfortable feeling, that inner tug, that's your sign. Go listen to my song Signs. You don't need permission to feel what's real. Ask yourself, have I outgrown this emotionally or mentally? Now let's stay there for a second, because a lot of times as women, and especially as women who are in transition and we're evolving and we're moving into different phases of ourselves, we have this tendency to hold on to things that are no longer in alignment with where we are going, right? And sometimes we give ourselves to things that we know that we know we've shifted away from spiritually, but we hold on to it because it's familiar and we're not yet ready to walk into that unknown of what's next, right? But you have to feel the shift. So if you're in a season right now, ask yourself, anything that you're doing, anything that you're thinking about saying yes to, anything that you're thinking about building, is this in alignment with me emotionally and spiritually? And if the immediate answer to that question is no, trust that. Okay, now let's move on. So R in the F.R.E.E.D framework is reclaim your yes. Reclaim your yes. Every no makes room for a deeper yes. Saying no isn't just about what you're rejecting. It's about what you're making space to receive, right? So there's a good affirmation that you can use, and you can say this to yourself. And this is pretty powerful for me too. So I'm receiving this as I'm giving it to you. But this no is sacred. It's making room for what's meant for me. Let's say that again. This no is sacred. It's making room for what's meant for me. Reclaim your yes. And me and my friends, we have this thing. And my friend Yasmin, she always tells me, your no, it's a full sentence. It's a period on the end of that, right? So this is kind of what R is about reclaiming your yes, right? It's fully owning your no as well. It's a full sentence. When there's something that you just don't want to do, you don't have to force yourself into a form that is unrecognizable to you. Okay? That is out the window. That's outdated. That's old. That's played out. We're not doing that anymore. Why? Because we have the awareness, because we're healing, because we're choosing to be intentional about this journey of evolving and growing. We can feel. We are no longer numb. We can feel exactly what's in alignment with us and exactly what isn't. And you got to have the courage to say no to those things that aren't in alignment. And you have to reclaim your yes, right? Because it's going to make space to receive the good things that are going to move the needle forward for you. And you have to trust that. Okay. So that's R of the reclaim your yes. Now the next letter is E. So this one is really important and is something that I had to learn and still learning, but establish boundaries. Okay. Establish boundaries, right? And if you want a copy of this F.R.E.E.D framework, just go ahead and comment on the post on the Healing Her Halo page. So you have to go to Instagram at Healing Her Halo and comment framework. And I'll send you the link for this copy of the F.R.E.E.D framework so you can look at this and review this yourself if this is something that you want. So make sure you go follow the Instagram page at Healing Her Halo and you comment framework on the latest post, and I'll send you the F.R.E.E.D framework. All right. So E, establish boundaries. Set limits rooted in self-respect, not fear. You're not responsible for managing other people's feelings about your growth. Try saying, I've grown in a new direction, or I'm not available for that anymore. Now, this is tough. This is really tough because if you're a person who is often people pleasing and you're often very, very concerned about what other people think about you, you will not establish boundaries and you will consistently do things that are not in alignment with what you know is for you because you're afraid of A, hurting people's feelings, of B, looking like a mean person. And so a mixture of these things are happening, right? But you have to recognize that there is a need to establish boundaries, especially when you're healing, because you're evolving into a version of yourself that you may not even know, right? So as you continue to evolve into especially a version that you don't even know, you have to be open to the fact that you are changing. You're changing. So what you said yes to yesterday may not be something that you say yes to the version of you today. Okay. So that's important to realize because you're constantly evolving. You're constantly growing. The yes that you made 2 weeks ago may not be the same yes that you'd make today. And you have to own that. You have to trust that. And you have to establish those boundaries when you are aware that the shift has happened. You have to reclaim your yes, establish your boundaries. So we're well into the F.R.E.E.D framework here. And if you're just joining into the podcast on podcast platforms, or if you're just tuned in to a part of the video on socials, comment framework on the latest post at Healing Her Halo, so I know that you want a copy of this F.R.E.E.D framework so you can have the courage to say no as well. All right, let's keep going. This is getting good. I really needed this for me too. So you guys, I'm grateful that I can give this to you because it's also giving it back to me. So we have another E in the F.R.E.E.D framework, and it's embrace the silence. Ooh, this is good. After the no, there's often quiet. Don't rush to fill it. The silence is where God can speak, guide, and confirm. This is so good. Reflection for you and for me. What blessing could come through if I honored this pause? Let's stay there for a second. Sometimes we are so afraid of being alone, being still, of not getting a text back, of people not calling us no more, of not being in a loop of what's going on, the fear of missing out, that we will do things, say yes to everything, to things that we don't want to do, knowing that is not in full alignment, at all. We will know that for sure, and still persist to force ourselves into a form that we don't even recognize. Be okay with the silence. Be okay with the people that walk away. Be okay with the not getting a text back. Be okay with the not getting a call back. Be okay with not being invited to the next get together. Be okay with that. And I'm speaking to me too. The courage to say no will have some people exit your life, right? And that's okay, right? Because the no is sacred. Like going back to that, the no is sacred. So if the silence must come after that no, let's take that time to ask God for guidance, to confirm the things that we know our yes is supposed to go towards, and reconfirm what we said no to is truly the true no that we needed to give, right? So reflection time is always needed, even in any season. So in any season, whether you're in transition, you're in a journey, you're building a business, or you're just venturing up the corporate ladder, whatever it is, there's so many different parts of our journey where we need to have the courage to say no, especially to opportunities that seem really good, But knowing that there might be some consequences of saying yes that we don't want. And knowing that there may be consequences of saying no that may be a temporary discomfort, right? That silence. It's really uncomfortable in silence sometimes. Sometimes you just want people to talk to. Sometimes you just want things to talk about. The next thing, everybody's always focused on the next thing. What you got next? What you doing next, right? And sometimes that pause, that silence is uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable and it feels like you're doing something wrong. But moments of stillness are okay. So after you give your no and you're sitting there and like, man, did I do that? Did I really just do that? Did I take my power back like that? Yes, you did. Sit in that. Own that. That's yours. Okay. So let's keep moving, y'all. So that was E, embrace the silence. Now D, this is good. I really love this. Decide to trust God. Okay. Trust that your obedience is never wasted. When you say no in faith, you're saying yes to God's plan. One that always includes peace, provision, and purpose. Now, here are some great scriptures that I'm going to share with you. Ecclesiastes 3:1. There is a time for everything and a season for every activity under the heavens. I love that one. And then Matthew 5:37. all you need. Something about that is just so powerful. But all you need to say is simply yes or no. Anything beyond this comes from the evil one. And that's on period, okay? All you need to say is simply yes or no. Anything beyond this comes from the evil one. And the first thing that comes to mind about this is confusion, right? So let it be clear. If you know in your spirit and your soul that it's a no, stand on that no. Because you don't want to be back and forth and indecisive, because confusion is of the enemy. There's nothing confusing about God. Nothing confusing at all. So stand on your yes. Stay firm in your no. Let your no be your no and your yes be your yes. Okay? So this was the F.R.E.E.D framework. And I really, really love this because it's very straightforward. If you felt like this F.R.E.E.D framework was the thing that you needed to hear today, or maybe it just kind of re-sparked some things in your mind that maybe you had forgot. Maybe you had forgot that you needed to say no to some things and you really didn't give an answer yet. Maybe this could help you get the courage to have that no as well. But I do have a couple other notes, just external notes that I want to share with you. And it's outside of the F.R.E.E.D framework, but it's a little bit more in general speaking. There were some additional notes that I had, and it's about not coming into agreement with anything that is not true for your life anymore. And for those of you who follow the show, who've been following my journey since 2016, you know that last week I was in Orlando. And I was there for just some really, serious things, some updates, honestly, just some really high level things that were going on. And there was this piece of paper that was given to me. And by the way, there are a lot of things that I really can't disclose, but we were talking to the FBI about some of the updates about the case being closed with Pulse and all of that. But there was this box that we needed to check to identify ourselves. And one of the boxes said victim, right? And there was only 3 options, either you're a parent to, one of the victims, or if you're a family member, a friend. And then it said victim. I only had that box to choose. And it was like checking that box for victim felt like I betrayed a part of my soul, because I don't look at myself as a victim anymore. And even checking that box felt like I was coming into agreement with something that was not truly my identity. So that is really important to recognize and to slow down and feel. Have the courage to say no also means having the courage to reject identities that are no longer true for you. And I say no longer true for you because at a point in time, perhaps it was. Maybe a year ago, maybe 2 months ago. How you identified yourself, how you saw yourself was in agreement with that particular thing. But it's also okay that that's no longer true, right? For me, I don't look at myself as a victim. I choose to look at myself as a person who has gone through extreme adversity, extreme challenges, but overcame them. And that's a part of my story, but it's not all of my story. So maybe you're there. Maybe in your life right now, there are a few different boxes that you have to check, that you feel like you have to check. And maybe these roles are so finite that there doesn't leave any room for flexibility. It doesn't leave any room for or space for creativity. I encourage you to just completely disregard those boxes that you think you have to check. Okay? Completely disregard the boxes overall. Rip the paper up in your mind if you need to. But you get to decide. You get to choose your story of who you are. You get to identify yourself as what you want to be. And if you need help with that, if you need help remembering who you are, you can ask God for that. And that's something that my husband has been reminding me to do every day, is to ask God to remember who I am, right? So, and just to run it back for those of you who are just joining on the podcast on the streaming platforms, or those who are just, logging in to YouTube, and maybe you fast forwarded, I don't know. But I was just sharing with my audience that last week I was in Orlando and we did have this FBI hearing. And during the hearing, we did have to basically fill out some forms. And on the form, there was a few different boxes that you had to identify yourself with. And one of the boxes that I had, and really the only box that really applied to me the most, was victim. And I hated it because I did not want to choose that box, but it was the only box that I had available to me that made the most sense, even though I don't look at myself as a victim anymore. So it's very, very important, very, very important that you are aware of what no longer fits, flatters, or feels like you. And I got that from Ed Milet. Okay, definitely tune into Ed Milet and his shows. He is really, really phenomenal. Okay, but that was a moment of recognition where I felt like I was betraying a piece of my soul because I didn't feel like that was me anymore. So you have to pay attention to those moments when you need to have the courage to say no and just, that's it. That's it. Okay. There's so many other examples that I have of this in my life, like opportunities that'll come my way. And as much as I want to help and as much as I want to be there and I want to do everything and I want to overextend myself and I want to give and I want to give my heart, I want to give my soul to every single thing, every single yes that I give, it's taking away a yes from something that's truly beneficial for my soul in my healing journey right now. And sometimes you have to prioritize that above all else because you need to preserve you. Okay, you got to preserve you. You got to keep yourself in alignment with what God has for you, even if it kind of looks like it could be it. You got to make sure that it's 100% the things that are in alignment that are going to move the needle forward for you, not just for the people who want you to do it or the opportunities that look like they could be good, but what actually feels good, what actually feels like you. And you know it feels like you. You know it's not you. So stop giving your yes to people, things, places, opportunities, spaces that don't even feel like you. So I hope you felt that because I did. Here's a couple other things, and then we'll go ahead and wrap this episode up. But I think it's going really well. So I hope you are receiving this in your heart, your spirit, and your soul. And I hope I'm delivering it in the way that it needs to be delivered. But the courage to say no. Okay. And how to say no to things that no longer fit. The courage to say no to any opportunities, spaces, places, or things. The courage to quit. The courage to clear out the clutter and make room for new blessings, new opportunities, new things that are in full alignment with the path that God has for you, that are in full alignment with the things that you know that you love. That's what it's about. Clearing space for those things, okay? And having the courage to say no to things that no longer serve you, right? That no longer align with the frequency that you need to access the divine holy destiny that you have, right? So clearing space, back to that same point. But also saying no, the courage to say no to emotions that no longer align with you and where you're going. This is a big one. Have the courage to say no to anything vibrationally that is not in alignment with where you're going, that's not in alignment with what God has for you. Say no to anger. Say no to bitterness. Have the courage to say no to jealousy. Have the courage to say no to envy. Have the courage to say no to sadness. Have the courage to say no to depression. Have the courage to say no to any energy, vibration, emotion, feeling, thought, thing, opportunity, space, place that is not in alignment with what God has for you, okay? Because that is going to create space for emotions, feelings, vibrations, energies, the good things that God has for you, right? Of joy, of blissfulness, gratitude, happiness, deep contentment, okay? So the courage to say no is so important in this season because you gotta make room. You gotta make room for the God things. Even though some things look really good and it looks like, you know what, I could probably contort myself to fit into this. Just say no and make room for the things that are perfectly made for you. Okay, this feels so good. And I wish I could keep talking forever and ever and ever to you, but I gotta go. But I'm so grateful for your love, your support. I'm so grateful for your feedback. Keep that up. Okay. So share this episode, download this episode, share it with a friend that you know needs the courage to say no to. All right. And I pray today that this episode put a little spark back into your halo. Until next time.